Hey guys, it's John, small town bookseller, back at you with another video. Tell you about what things I've sold. Back out here in the backyard once again, just enjoying the life. When your wife wants to buy an espresso maker, let her do it. That's so good. So so I managed to sell some books, and so when I do that on eBay, I'll come in here and I'll tell you all about them, and that's pretty much all I do. These are my videos, and I don't do any garage sale videos. I don't do yard sale videos. I don't do GoPros, at the good old bins, looking at my hands as though from a beleaguered city, turning the street corner and having risked her lives 100 times over, reappear and bring to us, with a jug of licorice water, the news that there were still at least 1,000 of them pouring along without a break from the direction of Thiberzy and Messonglis. No, I would never do such a thing. All I'm going to do is tell you what I sold, and what I sold is on my little list right here. So we're going to get into it. 25 sales. So this is going to cover May 1st through May 15th. And then I've got a little bit of news affecting the channel I'll give toward the end. But nothing real vital or important or anything. So this is going to have 25 sales. I had 24 books and one not a book. So 15 days, 25 sales, a little less than the 2 a day I like to aim for, but there was some good value here, so I think I made up for it in value from what I didn't get in quantity. So you'll see, stick around to the end, and I've got a couple of really good sales. And so I guess we're going to get into it. Is that about right? So if you're new, I typically buy books at different places, thrift stores, and all around. There's a couple thrift stores that I like to buy books at in, like Jackson, which is nearby, but the main place I get them is the Goodwill Bins. So the Goodwill Bins up in Houston, they sell for they were 3 for $1 until about 2 weeks ago, and then they changed it 2 for $1. So now they're 2 for $1. Still cheap, but not as cheap as it maybe used to be. But hey. Most of this, so I'll tell you where I got them. If I don't mention it, it's from the Goodwill Bins. Anything else, I'll try to remember to mention where I got it or how much I paid for it. So what do you say we get into this mess? All right, the first one, Conflicts of Interest, the letters of Maria Amparo Ruiz de Berton, which is so much more fun to say than John. So Maria Amparo Ruiz de Berton, sold for $7. And I hardly ever sell anything for less than $10. So if it's a listings for 10, I never list anything for less than 10 as far as books go. And so if I'm sourcing books and I see that the value is going to be under 10, I don't bother with it. I'm part-time. I do this very much, a few hours a week kind of a thing. And I just don't have to. If I was doing this full-time and I could sell a bunch of $5 to $10 books, I definitely would. But for now, for the amount of time I spend, the cost of packing material and all that kind of stuff, it's just not really worth it for me. So sometimes I'll list a book at 10, it'll sit for quite a while, and I'll finally get an offer. Like this happened. Somebody offered me 7. I think somebody offered me like 5, and when I countered and we came up with 7, I'll sell it for 7 just to get it, get it off the shelf and all that. But typically that's not my business model. All right, moving on. Sold this one. This is also an under $10 sale that had sat for a while. This is a Frontiers Saga Part 2, Who Takes No Risks, sold for $9. I have another book in this series, so this one is called Who Takes No Risks, and the other book that I have is called That Which Other Men Cannot Do. I mean, if you're going to write a series of science fiction books, those are 2 really terrible titles, I guess, actually. I mean, Who Takes No Risks and That Which Other Men Cannot Do? I don't know. Seems a little pretentious of sorts. All right. Moving on, we had this one is called Built Different. I picked up 2 or 3 of these, and I believe I got this one at the Bin Drop in Lake Jackson before they closed down. That used to be my place I'd source a lot, was the Bin Drop, which is like an Amazon return store and like close by, and they closed down, which really bummed about that. But I still have some books that I did pick up there that I'm selling. I picked up, I think, 3 of these, and that was the first one that sold. And then this one sold. Captain Whiz Bang sold for $10. I actually have another copy of this book that is signed by the author with a little doodle inside, which I put up for an astronomically high price, and it hasn't sold, which maybe that's the reason. But I do have another copy of this one signed. This was the one that was not signed by the author, and it sold for $10. All right, another one that's been selling well, I believe I'm out of this one now, is this, The Psychiatric Interview. So I took an offer on one of these for $18.99, and I sold the other one for my full asking price of $25. So that's a good one to look out for. It sells very quickly. All right, oh, here's a little foreshadowing for news coming up later. I sold Architecture in Japan for $20. Yeah, so we'll be talking about that in a minute. So then the next one is this one, The Secret of Underground Medicine. And that one sold for $20. I've got two more on my shelf, which I'd also like to sell. They look nice sitting there, but I do believe I would prefer to actually sell them. So, but that one did so. Anything underground medicine or natural remedies, natural things like that do often sell very well. All right. This one was a surprise. Every time I sell something like this, I'm surprised that there's somebody out there that wants it. The Principles and Practice of Flow Meter Engineering from 1975, sold for $20. To me, like 1970, maybe because I wasn't born in the 70s, so it can't be that old, right? I mean, you know, things from the 70s are not old. Still young. But I would think, like, is it really collectible at this point? Why would you want a book, an engineering book from the 70s? I don't know. Maybe I just need to come to the realization that things from the 70s are getting kind of old. Okay, moving on. All right. But anyways, that sold for $20. And then here's another genre that sells a lot. Trauma Treatment Toolbox sold for $20. Anything related to trauma treatment often will sell. I always look those up. And then this is a fiction. I don't sell a lot of fiction, but this is one. Psycho House, $20. Not the story of the small time resellers house. Semi-autobiographical, maybe. Then we had this one, The Multi-Sensory Teaching of Basic Language Skills, sold for $25. A lot of education books don't have any value, but some do. And so if it's new, if it's still being used, you can often get some good value. It depends on what it is. Homeschooling books sell very well, but I find a lot of other books that are I don't know, just more regular teacher books that they'll use don't sell as very well, but this one is one that did. So you can look up this one. Next one was probably my favorite sale of the fortnight that we're talking here. This is Poems of the Dawn from 1949, and it was signed by the author. And the reason this is my favorite one is that the buyer messaged me and said that the author of this book is her great-grandfather, and they have a copy of this book, but it's not signed. And so now they're going to get a signed copy of her great-grandfather's book. And I thought, that's so cool. So this is one that I believe when I looked it up on eBay, there may not have been any sold. Right? It's not something that everyone's going to want. It was not a well-known author. But with the magic of the internets out there, people who want something like that could search for it, and they could find it and want to buy it, even though there wouldn't be a big audience for that. It didn't sit for that long. It didn't have it for very long before it sold. So it's worth looking up. Even looking up, but also sometimes you just have to think. This is a book from the 40s. It's poems. It's signed by the author. I felt like there's value in that, and so I kept it just based on that, even though there were no sold comps to base that on. Is just kind of a feeling, a gut feeling that you get when you see a book like that. All right. This next one was Nature Reader, Seaside and Wayside from 1890s. I forget which year exactly, 1893, 1896 or something. That sold for $26. And then we had London After Midnight, the Lost Film, sold for $36.50. And so now, we talked about the one from the 70s earlier that I was surprised it sold. Now, you get back another 20 years. This one is a Process Heat Transfer from 1950. And to me, now you're looking at collectible from the 50s. And and that sold for $37.50. I actually had two of these, and the same guy went and bought the second one I had also. It must probably be on the next video, but the same person bought both of them. So why you would want two copies of that, I have no idea. But yeah, so anything on related to engineering, in this area of Texas where I live, there's a lot of chemical companies, and Dow Chemical and everything is around here. So anything related to engineering or petroleum, you know, I find a lot of books related to that, oil drilling things, you know, and so I've picked up a lot of those books, and they do have value, especially the older ones. So the next one we had was called The Federal Mafia, and it was signed by the author, and that one sold for $38. I think that's one, if I'm remembering correctly, having it signed by the author didn't add a lot of value to the book. It's not a well-known author. I should probably stop talking. I may be wrong on that, but sometimes, just in general, if you find that it's not a really well-known author, but having it signed by the author, if you're going to buy it, you may not care if it's signed, but you'd probably pick the one that's signed too. It may not triple the price like it would with some authors, or more than that even, but it may be an extra $5 or $10 because it's signed by the author. Then we had Patient Assessment Tutorials, which sold for $40. Anything medical will often sell. And then we had Meeting the Ethical Challenges of Leadership, sold for $40 as well. So we're getting a lot of, like, you know, nice $30 to $40 range sales here. The next one is a Fire Alarm Design Guide, sold for $42.50. I believe chapter 1 of that book is probably how do you make the fire alarm beep, but not regularly, not consistently, in a way that you cannot tell which fire detector is doing it, and only between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. That's got to be chapter 1, because that seems to be the most consistent function of a fire alarm. Moving on, we had Freemasonry. Everybody loves the Freemasonry. Are we required to say that? Because they're watching. And this one is Mackey's Revised Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, sold for $45.45. And then Section 8 Bible. Oh, what was the Section 8 Bible? Something about investing, property investing, I think. So this person bought two of them. I had volumes 2 and 3, and they paid $54 for the two of them. So the Section 8 Bible, volumes 2 and 3. And they're small books, so that's a good one to, you know, to find. If you find that one, that sells pretty well. And then I had my only not a book sale of the time period, but ooh, what a not a book it was. So at the Goodwill bins, you see a lot of records, albums, and most of them are in terrible condition, and most of them are older, a lot of classical, you know, and even ones that you think might be worth something generally aren't. And so I was very surprised to find this one. It's called Them Crooked Vultures. And this was I guess a side project of Dave Grohl, who was in Nirvana, and John Paul Jones with Led Zeppelin, and somebody else who I didn't know. And this is like a side project of some kind with them. And I don't have a record player, which is kind of funny. So I had to actually go over to my aunt's apartment and borrow her record player because I wanted to make sure it played well before I sold it, because I saw that it had value. And so it seemed to play fine. We jammed out at her house for a little while, listened to Them Crooked Vultures. But anyways, it sold for $105. Picked it up for 33. Well, it's probably 50 cents. Was it 30 or 50 cents? I don't remember when I bought it at the Goodwill bins. A lot of solds. I knew it would probably sell pretty quickly, and it did. And it was in very, very good condition. So that was a fun find. And then that was $105. Not the biggest sale of the week. This one coming up is, so my last book I sold, another one that just surprised the heck out of me. My Hometown, the Badias, Texas Story, signed by the author. I didn't even look on the map. I'm in Texas. I don't know where Badias, Texas is. It's a small town somewhere. I've not heard of it. And but it sold for $120, full asking price. So you just never know. It was in bad shape. I don't know if it ever had a dust jacket or not. If it did, mine didn't have it. I don't think it did. But it was, kind of stained on the cover. The pages were all in good condition. The binding was intact. But I took a lot of pictures of the condition issues. But it was signed by the author. And so, $120 for that one. So you just never know. It's always a surprise. That's why it's so fun to do this job. Because you just never know you're going to pick up something like that ends up selling for $120. So where does that leave us for this video? 25 sales at 24 books with a total of $694.94, which is an average of $28.96. Woohoo! Over my $25, which is a completely made up arbitrary figure, which I've decided means a good sales period. And then my not a book sale, I was aiming high. I put that goal out there. I was like 100, maybe 110. We'll cut in the middle, say 105 as a good average. And luck have it, I sold one item for $105, so I made that as well. So that's the sales for this period. I am going to be gone for a month. And so I'm recording this today. I'm going to try, if I have time, record another video today that I'll put out in a couple weeks. But yeah, we are taking a vacation. So my store right now is on pause. I started today. Today's Friday, the June 9th. And I won't be back till July 9th. And so I'm hoping that it doesn't just tank my sales when I get back. We'll see. But I'm going to try to record another video today to put out in a couple weeks. And but we are going to Vietnam and we're going to Japan. So 3 weeks in Vietnam, a week in Japan, actually like 8 days in Japan. And then we'll be back after that. So I'm going to be having a lot of really good coffee while I'm there. Yeah. So anyhow, that's what's going on with us. I probably won't post anything to this channel while I'm there. Yeah. So anyhow, hope everything's going well for you guys, and hope you're selling the heck out of a bunch of stuff, and hope to see you sooner rather than later. Adios.